a pleasure to be here amongst friends, but it's particularly a pleasure to be on a platform with a comrade from Syriza and to get the opportunity to congratulate them on their success on Sunday. I know that many people are disappointed that Syriza didn't win on Sunday, but the reality is it's astonishing they did so well. In 2007 at the election, I believe they only got 5.6% of the vote. And on Sunday, they almost won. I think the message that we have to take from Greece is that when people start to see how austerity starts affecting them, then they do look for alternatives. The reality is, Syriza are now the official opposition in Greece, and I believe the way they will oppose the government that is there now will mean when there are next elections in Greece, they will be the next government of Greece. I think as we look throughout Europe, it's quite clear that the kind of politics that people in this room have been arguing for some time are beginning to be listened to by ordinary people. I spoke at a very similar meeting to this in the autumn of 2008, at the time when the share prices were dropping, when many on the left could see what was happening. And ordinary people understood all too well what was going on. But the reality is that we have not had the ability to connect with them to say that there is an alternative. When you speak to people over the last few years, they have accepted that cuts are inevitable, that there has to be cuts, and that austerity was the only ballgame in town. I think what has happened in Greece, but also what has happened in France over the last few weeks, have shown that there is an alternative and that people throughout Europe are beginning to look for that. We've seen neoliberal policies failing throughout Europe. We've seen neoliberalism failing. But the reality is that we've not been effective at providing the leadership that actually there is alternatives available. When you speak to comrades in Spain, they say it is only now, despite all the strikes, despite all the struggle there, that actually people are saying we have to look and see what else can be done. When we look at the politics of the past, when we look at what happened in the 1930s, despite all the despair, despite all the grief and the pure misery that people suffered, out of that, there was built a different alternative, a different economic reality, and a belief in a different kind of economics. It may not have been the kind of economics that many people in this room would want, but it was a social democratic economics, a belief in the welfare state, a belief that it was necessary that everybody had some kind of share in society. And of course we've learned absolutely nothing as we've gone through this crisis. It's essential that we, out of what has happened, actually are able to give people hope that there can be a different economic settlement. I believe that's what's happening in Greece, what's happening in France, even indeed what's very slowly beginning to happen in the British Labour Party, where people are actually beginning to start talking about austerity for the first time rather than simply talking about cuts, shows that we're beginning to have an opportunity to have our voices heard. It's essential that the left have the arguments, that we link up with those throughout Europe. I think for too long, perhaps because of the attitude of some on the left to the European Union, we've actually, as a left, known very little about what's happening in different countries throughout Europe. Many people involved in the labour movement actually know very little about what's happening in whether it's Germany, France, Greece, Spain, Portugal. And I hope that what will come out of what's been going on over the last few months is that we start to recognise that Greece's struggle is our struggle, that Ireland's struggle is our struggle, that Spain's struggle is our struggle. Because the reality is austerity isn't working there, it's not working here. We need to look to to the people that are arguing for something different and champion them, whether they agree with all of their politics or not, whether it's David Blanchflower, whether it's Paul Krugman, whether it's Mark Sawatka, whether it's Tony Benn. There are people arguing for an alternative. We're all arguing for an alternative. I believe that if we put the arguments together, if we're strong enough in what we're saying, we can be successful. And I believe that over the coming months, as we build towards the demonstration on the 20th of October, we have the real opportunity to build a movement that will bring down Cameron, but perhaps more importantly, will put in place the conditions where it's possible for a government of whatever political party to actually start rebuilding the welfare state, stopping the privatisation, actually standing up to the vested interest into big business, and to put real alternatives to the British people. The people in this room have a key part to play in that process, and I believe that if we're united going forward, we will be successful over the coming period. We need to have solidarity, we need to work together, and that's why I'm glad to see such a broad range of people in this platform, and I look forward to working with you over the coming months. Thank you very much.